Reading Masterclass. This Masterclass session is designed to help you understand the things that you need to work on to improve your score in the reading section. We'll look at the fundamentals. We'll look at the fundamental skills that make up good reading skills. And when you apply that, when you work on those fundamentals, you'll notice that you find it much easier answering any type of reading comprehension questions. And more specifically, the type of questions asked in PTE. So let's start from the basics. First of all, why do we read? We need to understand what good reading actually is, what's involved in good reading. So we read to get information. We want to understand something. We want to get some specific information, and that is why we read. We also read for entertainment, but here, as we are concerned with an academic exam, PTE Academic, and the test of English in an academic environment like at university or at work, that's why we'll stick to this definition that our purpose of reading in an academic environment is to get information, to understand something. Now, there are different types of texts that we read. You'll find small texts, and they also have information. For example, we are closed for summer vacations back in August. You can find this on a small piece of paper outside a restaurant, at the restaurant door, or you can have a small instructions. For example, go straight and turn right at the traffic light. The bank is not far from there. So these small texts, they also have information. And then you have large, like a paragraph, something like this. And it's usually in your reading comprehension in the reading section. The text that you will encounter is mostly mid to large texts. So a paragraph to a couple of paragraphs or even 2 to 3 paragraphs you can find in some questions. And then you have what we call academic text. And this is what we need to concern most about. So these are the kind of passages that you will find in your reading comprehension questions. The text that will be structured in a certain manner. They'll deal with a specific topic of academic nature. For example, here it's dealing with federalism. This text tells us what federalism is about. And the way the text will be structured, each paragraph will have a clear purpose. For example, one paragraph will introduce what the topic is, another paragraph will look at the various arguments, and then somewhere in the text you will have the examples. And that's the type of text. These are the types of text that you will have to deal with in the reading section. And we will specifically look at the techniques that you can learn, that you can practice to help you understand these academic texts better. So as we saw initially, you answer the question, why do we read? We read to get information from academic texts. And now we'll look at how we can do that. But before that, as I discussed, the academic texts that you will find, they have a structure. There's an introduction, then you have the arguments, then you have some explanations, some more information related to the arguments. You have the examples, and then you have the conclusion. So always keep this in mind when you are attempting a reading comprehension question. Always keep it in mind that this is an academic text and it will follow a logical structure. So this is not piece of creative writing that the writer will write any which way they want to structure their story. This is an academic text and there's a clear pattern that it will follow. When you keep that in mind, it will help you to easily zone on the part of the text where the information might be, the information that you need to find to answer a question. Now, the common problems which students face, they often say that they're not able to read within given time, or they are not able to understand the theme, or they are not able to find specific information. As we discussed in the very beginning when we did an overview of PTE Academic, for the reading section, there's only an overall time limit. So if you want, you can spend 15 minutes on one multiple choice question. It's entirely up to us to determine how we want to structure this time, how we want to make use of this time. And usually, around 2 minutes, not more than that, on a reading comprehension question. So students say that 2 minutes is not enough to read the whole text. We are not able to understand the theme, or we are not able to find the specific information in those 2 minutes. So these are the problems. If you are also struggling in the reading comprehension, if you think reading will be challenging for you, then you need to be able to overcome these problems, these challenges. And the techniques that we are going to suggest will help you with that. The first technique that we want to talk about for good reading, for effective reading, is skimming. Now, as you know, your reading, it has a purpose, and these reading techniques, they are designed for specific purposes. So skimming, this technique is to quickly go through a text with a goal of getting an overall idea. For example, if this is the text, then you don't have to read each and every word. Start at the beginning, federalism, then jump with regional governments, political system, the modern era differs from confederalism. Okay, examples. So just doing that, you've quickly gone through, you've skipped a couple of sentences, you've read a few words from here and there from each paragraph, and you get a general idea that this is a text about federalism. And then skimming, it also helps you. First, it helps you understand what the text is about, get a general idea of that. And then it also gives you some kind of an indication how the text is structured. So now if somebody asks me, if let's say in the exam I have a multiple choice question and they mention the name of a country, then I know that I saw the countries mentioned in the last paragraph. So I will focus my attention on the last paragraph. All right. If they something about the difference from confederalism or from other forms of government, then I know there was something mentioned like that in the middle paragraph. So I will focus on that. That is the purpose of skimming. It gives you what the overall text is about. So for example, if your multiple choice question, often they ask you in different ways. They ask you if you understand what the central idea is. For example, the question will say, what do you think the author feels about this? What do you think the writer wants to convey? And they will have options. So if you have understood what the theme is, you'll be able to answer all those questions. And then if there are more specific questions focusing on any one particular area of the text, then you know which part of the larger text you need to focus on. So that's your skimming. And the second technique that we want to talk about is called scanning. So when you say scanning, you get the picture, someone examining things closely. And that is what it is. So it means you go through a text to find a specific information in it. So an example is this. And I was talking earlier. Now let's say they ask a question, which form of government does India have, or which form of government does Brazil have? And then in the options, I have federalism, confederalism, third, a mixed form of government, and fourth, a provincial government. Just as an example, from skimming earlier, you know that India and other countries, they were mentioned in the third paragraph. So you will just go to the third paragraph and you'll read examples of a federation include Argentina, Australia, etc., Brazil. And yeah, that will confirm that Brazil is an example of a federation, or Brazil has a federal form of a government. So that will give you the specific information that you're looking for, and you can confidently select your option. So that's how you use scanning. So often when there'll be questions like which of the following, one option will be different from others, which of these is not mentioned, and then the context in which it's mentioned or not mentioned, you'll go to that particular paragraph and you can validate the options there. So that's the purpose of scanning, to go through a text to look for specific information or to validate some specific options that are given to you. Now, if you do this, you use the skimming technique and use the scanning technique, it will help you in all your academic reading tasks. Of course, when you're reading a novel, you're not in a hurry. You don't know what to expect. You just want to enjoy the story. So you go slowly, go word by word. But here, the timer is running out and you want to read always with a goal in mind. So practice these two techniques. When you try the different practice questions, use these techniques and they will really help you. Another thing that I want to talk about is active reading. So basically, you should think while you are reading. And now we recommend our students to spend some time every day reading articles in newspaper or reading something on the university websites or something related to economics, social science, politics, the kind of topics that you can expect in the exam of general nature, but not any deep science or mathematics topics. So nothing too deep, but in general, topics of academic nature. So when you read those things like business reports, some articles on some research outcomes from a university, then when you are reading, you should always think, okay, that why am I reading this? And when you're reading, try to understand what is the central theme of the text. And when after reading, let's say 3 paragraphs, ask yourself, what are the main points in the text? Have I understood that? Were there any examples given in the text? If yes, which ones were those examples? How well were they supporting the main points? Then ask yourself, is the author conveying an opinion in the text? Or is the author just passing on the information and being neutral? If you think the author has his own opinion that he or she is conveying in the text, then ask yourself, what is that opinion? Okay? And try to rephrase it, try to write it down, or try to speak it in your own words. And always when you are reading, draw a picture in your mind. We always say that when you are reading or when you are listening, do it, think when you are reading, think when you are listening, try to understand. And a big part of that understanding is to draw a picture in your mind. Okay? Then that's the best way to remember the information as much as possible. The most information that you will be able to remember if you attach some visual clues to it. So that's why try to draw a picture in your mind. Now, let me summarize, reiterate the key points once again for you. Focus always only on academic texts. Throughout your preparation till you have given your PT exam, focus only on academic texts. Practice skimming, that is, quickly set a timer, 30 seconds. In this, I'll quickly go through these 2 paragraphs and I'll try to understand what the theme is. Practice scanning. Again, set a timer, 30 seconds, and try to find some specific information in the text. And actively engage with the text. So whenever you read it actively, ask yourself questions, how much I've understood, what I've understood, and the best way of testing yourself, your understanding is make yourself write it or make yourself speak it. So that way you can also practice your writing and speaking skills at the same time. And keep some time for reading, for practicing these journal skills every day. Okay. So as I just said, you can practice speaking and reading together. You can practice reading and writing together. So divide your schedule, plan your schedule in such a way that you keep 30 minutes, 1 hour every day for working on your core skills. That's it. Those are the few things that we want you to work on because this is a foundation. And as you will now see in the subsequent sections, which we will cover now, that all the question types, they rest on these fundamentals.